Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in my quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and today I'm flying solo. Jonathan Voitko's got the day off. Robert Meyer Burnett is off in San Diego at Comic-Con right now, and so I'm left here today to host and run everything all by my lonesome. So please forgive me in advance if there's any technical issues as we go through the show. I am trying to run the whole damn thing by myself here today. Good to have you guys here on this Friday. And today's kind of a special little day. We're mainly just going to be focusing on Fantastic Four today. And number one, I'm going to be giving my review of Fantastic Four, non-spoilery. And then we're going to be talking about the incredible box office numbers it did on its preview night. We're going to get into that in just a second. Now, also, for those of you watching live, you may have noticed that we've turned on members-only chat. So only members of the channel can chat today. It's just for today, but I did that just so, to avoid the danger of people coming in and dropping spoilers. Because sometimes people like to come in and crop dust, whatever they call it, and drop in spoilers and take off. So we decided to turn that off and just have it for members today. But hey, we're glad all of you are joining us here today. And a big hello to all of our channel members as well. All right. Guys, here's how today's show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about those couple of Fantastic Four things. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to be taking your comments and questions. The way you get a comment or question on our show for us to address is by simply sending it in to our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. You'll find a link for that down in the description of this video. Now, I gotta say, I won't be getting around to doing live ones. I'm only gonna be able to do ones that have already been sent in as of now, because again, I don't have Jonathan here to run it, so I had to collect all of them before we started. But if you do send one in during the show, don't you worry, we'll just get around to answering it on Monday. All right. With that down, guys, let's get things started here, shall we? Yesterday, I went to go see Fantastic Four. With Ann. Me, Ann, Ray, and our buddy Ryan. We all went to go see Fantastic Four. And if you saw my out of the theater reaction, I absolutely loved it. As a matter of fact, Ann loved it so much, she's already booked us tickets to go see it again today. So as soon as I'm done this show today, Ann and I are heading back to the movie theater to go and watch it again. Now, if you saw my out of theater reaction, you know I loved it. But it seems like right now, a lot of people seem to be loving it. As of this moment, it's got an 88% certified fresh Rotten Tomato critic rating and a 92% audience rating. Now, again, remember, these are verified audience ratings. This is verified. These are people who actually saw Fantastic Four and their votes are being registered. So that's pretty impressive. All right. Let me go into what I thought of Fantastic Four. I'm going to talk about how I felt about it in general. I'm going to talk about the things I didn't like about it. Then I'm going to talk about the things that I liked about it and then just kind of re-sum it all up here. So let's get into it here, shall we? Overall, I loved this film. Now, one of the things that I said in my out of theater reaction was that Thunderbolts marked the return of really good Marvel, right? Because it's been hit and miss. Deadpool and Wolverine was beyond awesome, yes, but we had a few that were not so great, including the last one, Captain America Brave New World, was quite frankly subpar and was not a very good effort on their part. Then Thunderbolts comes out, and Thunderbolts, I thought, knocked it out of the park. I thought they did a great job with Thunderbolts. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie so much. I've seen it multiple times. I'm going to watch it many more times again. So I said Thunderbolts was the return of really good Marvel. But to me, Fantastic Four is the return of peak Marvel. Now, I qualify that by saying that's not me saying that Fantastic Four is the best movie Marvel's ever made. It's not. But what it is when you watch it, you can tell that Marvel was firing on all cylinders. That level of excellence that we came to expect out of MCU movies in the first bunch of years through the first three phases, where, sometimes it was their absolute best movie, sometimes it was their fourth best movies, but there was that period of time when you can just tell Marvel was in the zone. You know what I mean? You know, sometimes you're playing a video game and like you can just do nothing wrong. You're just in that zone. And there was a period of time when Marvel would put out movies and make these MCU movies. You could tell they were in a zone. They were firing on all cylinders. They were totally in the flow. While they have put out some great stuff in recent years, they put out a few things that are great. We've never really, at least I've never really felt like I was watching a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie where it felt like they were back in that zone again. Like even Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts, I think, is a wonderful movie, right? But I never got that sense that they were completely in that zone again, where this is Marvel absolutely firing on all cylinders. But Fantastic Four, not that I'm saying it's a perfect movie. It's not. But this was the first time in a long time, guys, that I've been watching a Marvel movie where it felt like they are firing on all cylinders. They're in the zone. They've found their flow. Like they are just hitting every target right now. The dialogue was spectacular all throughout it. None of it felt forced. None of it felt overdone. Like I love Superman. Love Superman. But you know that one line that drives me crazy in Superman? When Engineer goes, "I know, Lex. I sacrificed my whole humanity to help you destroy him." It's like, oh God, that one line was so forced and so clearly expositionary for no other reason than to be expositionary. And it was just like, Fantastic Four has none of that. Like, every bit of dialogue was meaningful and beautiful, and the chemistry between the characters, impeccable. Impeccable. It was just glorious to watch. You know, one of the things I said in my out of the theater reaction was the way you can tell I really loved this movie was the fact that even if you took out almost all the comic book elements, take out the space travel, take out the giant monster, take out the action sequences. If Fantastic Four ended up being a 2-hour movie of just these 4 characters hanging around at a dinner table or walking around town together or hanging out in the living room and just talking together, I could have watched that movie. I mean, it wouldn't have been as good as it is this one, but even if it was just that, I totally could have watched this movie because I love the dynamic between the characters. I love the banter between the characters. I love the nature of the relationship between the characters. No spoilers here, but you know, there's a point in the movie, as in every movie with multiple superheroes, where like Reed and Sue have a bit of a disagreement, right? And here's the thing. It felt, as a married guy, it felt like such a real married couple disagreement. It felt so authentic and so real, and they didn't overblow it or anything like that. And it just felt so good. I loved watching every moment that Sue would talk to Johnny. I loved every moment that Ben was talking to Reed. I loved every moment of Reed and Sue together. I loved every moment of Ben and Johnny together. I mean, just the character work was so good. Also, I gotta say the visual effects were top notch. There are 1 or 2 moments that maybe I thought they could have done a little bit of a better job on the CGI. I'll talk about those in a minute. But overall, I thought the visual effects work was outstanding. Like absolutely outstanding. They did everything, like that whole world they created. And a lot of it was practical, but a lot of it was also digital. The whole world they created for Fantastic Four just looked impeccable, looked so good. Everything about like in their space travel and the use of their powers and everything. I loved it. And, you know, Fanjexture is saying in the live chat, and Fanjexture is 100% right. Ben felt real. Like I watched a few clips of like the old Fantastic Four, Jessica Alba and Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis as the Thing. And I mean, what they were able to do with that practical costume from Michael Chiklis was wonderful. But this Thing felt more real than Michael Chiklis's Thing did. And Michael Chiklis's Thing was a practical costume. And yet this Ben felt even more real to me. And like everything from how he emoted and his expressions on that rock face of his was just amazing. By the way, Herbie was great too. Herbie was a practical effect, not CGI. I was surprised when I found that out. But Herbie was wonderful. I thought I would get kind of annoyed with clearly they just put this little thing in to sell toys. But Herbie was great. I love Herbie in it. He was wonderful. I had a really good time with it. So Galactus, obviously it goes without saying that this is, not that the standards were very high, but that this was the best iteration of Galactus that we've ever had. Like, that's fair to say. I thought they portrayed Galactus as awe-inspiring, menacing. They did a great job. Silver Surfer was wonderful. I know there were some people that had some concerns about Silver Surfer going in. Silver Surfer was great. 100% great. And by the way, there are scenes in this movie, I won't give context or anything not to spoil it, but there are scenes in this movie where Surfer is like chasing something and like literally the surfing moves, like that Surfer, it just looked so visually great. I was overwhelmed by it. And the way the inflections in her voice was great. Everything about it was just awesome. Surfer was absolutely knocked it out of the park. I loved the movie. Absolutely loved it. All right. Let me talk for a minute here about a couple of things that I didn't think worked. Let me start with something I already referenced. Remember I said that I thought the visual effects in the movie were fantastic, and they are. But I said there were a couple of moments, just a couple of moments that I didn't think looked great. One of the visual effects shots that I didn't think looked great is actually in one of the trailers. There's that scene where Ben is flying the Fantastic car and he jumps out of the Fantastic car into the water, like cannonball, and goes into the water, and then he pulls the ship out. You know, that's in the trailer. In the trailer, I didn't think that visual effect of him jumping out and hitting the water, I didn't think that looked completely believable in the trailer, but I thought it'll look better on the big screen. To be honest, it didn't look better on the big screen. I thought that 1.8 second of a shot didn't look all that great. So 0.8 of a second of a shot. Fine. Another thing I think they could have done better in the movie is it wasn't complicated and it wasn't terribly confusing, but I think the movie could have done a better job expressing passage of time. Because there are times in the film you're like, okay, how much time has passed between that scene and this scene? Has this been a significant time jump, like 5 weeks later, or has it been 5 minutes later? I'm not saying they did a terrible job with that. I just think they could have done a little bit better of a job to kind of convey passage of time. And I think that would have made the story feel a little bit more coherent. Like, again, I feel like we were able to keep up. It's just one of those things that I think they could have done a little bit better. Next, this is really a sin of omission. So it's not anything that was on the screen that I didn't like. It was something that I think they could have used a little bit more of. I would have liked to have seen Reed use his powers a little bit more. Because, I mean, look, Reed's number one power is his intellect, right? He's the smartest man on the planet. And this movie really leans into that. It totally leans into his absolute intellect. They do that great. I'm talking about his superpowers, though, his stretching ability. There are a couple scenes that highlight it well, but I feel like we got to see Johnny use his stuff more. I feel like we got to see Sue use her powers a little bit more. And again, I get it. Reed's number one power is his smarts, but still, I would have liked to have seen Reed use his stretching power a little bit more in the movie. Again, that's not something wrong with the movie. That's something that I wish they added a little bit more of. Also, another thing that I didn't love about the movie, and I won't give anything away about it, but I don't think the second post-credit scene was worth sticking around for. Now look, I don't think post-credit scenes have to like tease something that's coming later. I really don't. A lot of people disagree with me on that, but I don't care. I really don't think that you need to make post-credit scenes that, but at least make post-credit scenes worth sticking around for. Give a big give a little bit of a surprise or give a big laugh, right? Or give something like that. Make it so it was worth sticking around. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, while the first post-credit scene, the mid-credit scene, totally worth sticking around for. The second one at the very end of the movie, not worth sticking around for. So if you go to see Fantastic Four and you're in the theater and watching the movie, stick around for the first post-credit scene that happens midway through the credits. But after that's done, you can pack up your stuff and leave and go. You don't need to stick around for the second one. It really isn't worth it. And that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. That's about it that I've got for the things I didn't like about the movie. Now, that doesn't mean everything else is perfect. There are a lot of things in this movie that they do well that I thought they could have done a little bit even more of. Like, for example, Ben. You see in the trailer, there's that one shot where Ben is looking through the glass at a TV of himself still in his human form. And then it pulls focus to just seeing Ben's reflection kind of staring at himself the way he used to be. And that was great. No dialogue was needed. We got a world of information through a quick moment and a quick look on Ben's face. However, I do think maybe it would have been even better if there was at least one quick conversation somewhere in the movie about Ben's feelings of how he is, right? Johnny still looks like Johnny. Sue still looks like Sue. Reed still looks like Reed, but Ben is now forever visually different than everybody. And I thought maybe they could have delved into that just a little bit more, but now I'm nitpicking. Like, honestly, now I'm nitpicking. Overall, is it the best action we've ever had in a Marvel movie? No. Is it the best humor we've ever had in a Marvel movie? No, I wouldn't say that. But what I am saying in general is this is Marvel operating at their peak again. Now, will that continue? I don't know. I don't know yet. Well, we're going to have to wait for Doomsday or Spider-Man or whatever. But it felt so nice being in this movie theater and watching this movie and really feeling like for the first time in a long time, you were getting Marvel's best. Their best effort, their best focus, their best standards. And again, I haven't felt that in a while. So it was really, really good to feel that again. So yeah, guys, now just so you guys know, on Sunday, this Sunday at 2 p.m. Los Angeles time, that'll be 5 p.m. New York time on Sunday, we're going to be doing our Fantastic Four open spoiler discussion. So you've got yesterday, today, and tomorrow to see Fantastic Four, and then join us on Sunday at 2 p.m. LA time. That's 5 p.m. East Coast time, New York time, for our Fantastic Four open spoiler discussion. Hope you guys will come by and join us for that. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on and talk about this, shall we? One of the big questions that we've had going into Fantastic Four is how well is the box office going to do, right? That's obviously one of the questions we have, because remember, box office equals people. I often get criticized. People say, John, why do you care so much about box office? Well, don't you care about if people got interested in a movie? Yeah. Don't you care if people actually got motivated enough to go out to a movie? Yeah. Don't you care to know if a marketing campaign was effective or not? Yeah. Well, that's all box office. Box office tells us if a marketing campaign got people motivated. Box office tells us if the general movie-going audience was interested in the property. Box office tells us, like, all worlds of information. That's why I care. So I've been very interested in finding out, how will Fantastic Four do? And it do well, ladies and gentlemen. It do well. Because according to the Hollywood Reporter, Fantastic Four First Steps had a $24.4 million opening preview night. And that is the best preview night of the year. I want to put this into perspective for us, okay? I want to put this in perspective. when we go over and look at this, when you look at the opening Thursday night numbers of the biggest movies that have come out this year, Minecraft, which by the way went on to make $162 million in its opening weekend, had a $10.5 million preview night. Thunderbolts, which went on to have a $74 million opening weekend, had an $11.5 million opening preview night. That's Thursday nights. Captain America 4, which went on to have an $88.8 million opening weekend, started with a $12 million preview night. Lilo and Stitch, which went on to have a $146 million opening weekend. And by the way, Lilo and Stitch is the first billion-dollar film of the year. It had a $14.5 million preview night. Then Superman came. And Superman, for a couple of weeks, held the top spot as the biggest opening preview night of the year with $22.5 million opening preview night. How would Fantastic Four do? Fantastic Four beat it. And Fantastic Four is now the biggest preview night, the busiest Thursday night of the year so far, with $24.4 million made on its preview night last night. Now, for a little bit of extra perspective on this, that $24.4 million it just made in its preview night is not just the biggest preview night of the year, but it's the biggest preview night in all of movies since Deadpool 3 came out, and it, obviously you can see there, had a ridiculous preview night of $38.5 million on its way to $211 million opening weekend. Okay. Now, some people, I get it, might be a little bit confused by some of those numbers, saying, well, wait a minute. So if Fantastic Four had a bigger preview night than Lilo and Stitch, which went on to have a $146 million opening weekend, that means that Fantastic Four is going to have way over a $146 million opening weekend, right? Not necessarily. I want to point out a couple of numbers on this list here. All right. First of all, Minecraft had a $10.5 million Thursday night, $162 million opening weekend. Lilo and Stitch, $14.5 million preview night, $146 million opening weekend. Here's the difference. With movies like Fantastic Four and Superman, us comic book movie fans tend to rush out as early as we can to see these movies, right? Again, that's why Superman has a $22.5 million preview night and 125, so a much bigger preview night than Lilo and Stitch or Minecraft, but not as big of an overall opening weekend as Lilo and Stitch and Minecraft. Why? Because people who wanted to see Superman are going to go out on Thursday night to see Superman. People who want to see Fantastic Four are going to run out to go see Fantastic Four on Thursday night and Friday and Saturday. Yes, for true for sure. But families going and taking their kids to see Lilo and Stitch, families going and taking their kids to see Minecraft are not necessarily running out to go see it on Thursday night. They're probably going to wait till it's a non-school night. They're probably going to wait for a Friday night, a Saturday night, or Saturday matinee, Sunday matinee, that sort of thing. So that's why if you're looking at these numbers and thinking, wait a minute, how did Minecraft have such a small opening weekend compared to, or small opening day compared to Superman, and yet had a bigger opening weekend as a whole compared to Superman? Well, because people who wanted to go see Superman were rushing out to see it Thursday night, and families and people wanting to go out and see Minecraft weren't rushing out to see it on Thursday night. They were waiting for a non-school night. They were waiting for a family day. They were waiting for a matinee on Saturday, that sort of thing. So if you're looking at this list, don't think this means necessarily that Fantastic Four is going to open to over $160 million. It won't. But you know what? They were just projecting $120 million opening weekend for Fantastic Four. $120 million opening weekend. I do think it's going to break that. I think Fantastic Four here is going to end up beating Superman with its $125 million opening weekend. Now, it only beats Superman by $2 million on its Thursday night, but I do think this is going to have great legs. And again, while Fantastic Four does have some negative baggage it's carrying around with it, with the failure of all the other Fantastic Four movies, and Marvel isn't exactly firing on all cylinders, and Marvel's rep, if you say, isn't as good as it was back in phases 1, 2, and 3, the rep of Marvel is still definitely much healthier than the rep of DC. Because going into Superman, DC's reputation was absolute garbage. Like absolute total garbage. The entire movie-going audience had completely abandoned DC, all that kind of stuff, right? Where you can't say that with Marvel. Yeah, Marvel, we all have been maybe a little bit dissatisfied with how they've been lately. They're certainly not as good as they used to be. But their reputation, they have not completely lost the audience. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine made well over $1 billion. So it's in a healthier place. So yeah, I think we're talking about Fantastic Four having a north of 130, maybe even north of $135 million opening. King Daddy Goat is saying in the live chat there, guessing 132.5. I don't think that's far off. And if it is 132, that would make, and we talked about this a little bit on the show yesterday, if Fantastic Four hits $132 million on its opening weekend or higher, that will make it the biggest opening weekend for a Marvel film since the end of 2022. The only Marvel film that will have had a bigger opening weekend in those years will have been Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's it. It will beat Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It'll beat out Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I think came out in 2023. Anyway, it'll beat out Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which had a $118 million opening weekend. It'll beat out Thunderbolts. It'll beat out Captain America: Brave New World. It'll beat out the Marvels, clearly. The only Marvel film since 2022 that will have had a bigger opening weekend is Deadpool and Wolverine. And nobody expected Fantastic Four to have the opening weekend of a Deadpool and Wolverine. That wasn't going to happen. So the question is, why is Fantastic Four having this level of success? I think there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Number one, while it in context is absolutely impressive that it is the biggest preview opening day of the year of any movie anywhere, the fact that it's even beat out Superman on those preview nights, all that is impressive. But I do want to remind us all that it is, by Marvel standards, just doing their job. And that's good. By Marvel standards, which Marvel itself has not been living up to lately, but by Marvel standards, it's good. It's good. By everybody else's standards, it's great. It's the top opening preview night of the year. But why has it been able to do that when none of the other movies have? Well, I think a couple of things. One, I think Disney and Marvel's strategy to pivot away from their trailers and instead pivot to putting out clips over the last number of weeks was a major win for them. The trailers for Fantastic Four First Steps had not been great. They'd been okay. They were all right. They didn't do anything to lessen my excitement for Fantastic Four, but they certainly weren't doing anything to increase the excitement of the average moviegoer for the movie, I don't think. And at some point, it feels like Marvel understood that. They got it. The trailers aren't working. And then you guys will know, about a month ago, they pivoted to, instead of putting out new teasers, they started actually putting out clips from the movie. You know, I think the first one was a fuller scene of the dinner scene where the family's sitting down together and Ben's like, "You're pregnant," right? That felt so much better than even the clips of that scene that we saw in the trailers. Like this, watching it as a coherent scene, it just felt really, I remember me and Rob talking on the show. When they put out that clip of the movie, Rob and I were both like, okay, now we feel the chemistry between the characters. Now they feel like a family. Now this feels like conversations I would want to watch. Because when they were just using segments of it in the trailers, I never got any of that. Then they put out the scene of Silver Surfer showing up, which again, we saw clips of, like just fragments of in the trailers, but they showed the more full clip of her showing up, going, I herald his beginning, I herald your end. Go celebrate, hold your loved ones dear, for your time is short, blah, blah, blah. Like, and that whole scene felt so much better than what they had shown us in the trailers. It felt cohesive. You felt the ominous presence of the Silver Surfer. You felt the fear. You felt the stakes by putting out that clip. It just felt way better. And then they put out another clip or two after that. The point is that Marvel did a great thing recognizing that the trailers themselves were not doing it. The trailers themselves were not accomplishing that. They needed to pivot, and they did. So I think that's been exceptionally well. The other reason I think that this has worked so well is goes back to years now, is the casting. The casting was great. And let me take a second and talk about Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. I loved the iteration of Reed Richards in this. Without giving any spoilers away, this is a Reed Richards who, number one, knows he's the smartest man in the world. But knowing he's the smartest man in the world does not give him an ego. The opposite of true. The opposite of that is true. Reed's the smartest man in the world, and he feels like he's not smart enough to fulfill that job as being the smartest man in the world. When you're the smartest man in the world, you can either develop an ego about that, kind of like how Tony Stark has a really cool ego, like even dead, I'm the hero. Being a super smart guy, you can develop an ego. But instead of developing an ego, you feel this heaviness on Reed in this movie. And Pedro Pascal performs the crap out of it. There's a heaviness to Reed that I'm not doing the job of smartest man in the world good enough. Being that smart comes with the curse. They don't say this in the movie. I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just saying this is the feeling I get. Being that smart comes along with the curse of knowing just how much you don't know. True ignorance isn't not knowing a lot. True ignorance is thinking you know more than you do. That's true ignorance. Ignorance isn't not knowing a lot. It's thinking you know more than you actually do. And the curse that Reed has in this Fantastic Four, in this iteration of Reed Richards, is that he is so smart that he's constantly aware of all the things he doesn't know. And it's the things he doesn't know that scares him. And the way Pedro Pascal plays that, the way Pedro Pascal portrays that in the movie is absolutely next level. And I don't know that I can think of 4 actors who could play this version of Reed Richards better than Pedro Pascal just played it. Vanessa Kirby as Sue was unbelievably great, and the dynamic between Reed and Sue was fantastic. Eben Moss-Bachrach, the Emmy award-winning actor, as Ben, next level, man. Absolutely next level. I loved him in this so much. And, Eddie Munson as Johnny Storm was great. And again, all of it worked. The chemistry between Reed and Johnny in this, brilliant. The chemistry between Ben and Sue, brilliant. The chemistry that I really loved besides between Reed and Sue was the chemistry between Johnny and Ben. I thought that was great too. And so I think The marketing shift was a big reason for it. I think the casting was a bit of a reason for the success that they've had with that opening night. We'll see how good the success stretches into the whole weekend. If it does or not, we'll find out. And the third thing that I think is the isolated nature of it. And I may be right or wrong about that, but I remember when Ray and me, Ann, and Ray were walking out of the theater, one of the things Ray said, and this holds true for how I feel about a lot of comic book movies, he said it felt really good watching this movie and not have to wonder, why isn't Thor coming to help? Why isn't Doctor Strange coming to help? Why aren't the Dora Milaje coming to help? Where's Ant-Man when you need him? Hey, this is in New York. Where's Spider-Man? Like, it felt so good again watching one of these movies where the Fantastic Four are unique in their world. That used to be the way all comic book movies were. Comic book movies used to be, until the MCU really came around and popularized it, all comic book movies where you had this hero and the hero was unique in the world because there were no other like them. In this world of the Fantastic Four, there's the Fantastic Four. They are unique in the world. There's not 20 superheroes on the roof of every 7-Eleven patrolling the streets for crime. They're unique in their world. And while I love my shared cinematic universes, absolutely, it feels really good once in a while. This is one of the reasons why I love Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson's The Batman. It feels good every once in a while to go back to a story, a superhero story, where your hero or heroes are actually unique in the world they're in. Now, that being said, one of the other great things about this Fantastic Four is that it feels like this Fantastic Four is going to fit in beautifully with a larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this is what I said to Ann coming out. I said, you know what? The other thing is that this Fantastic Four, I feel like they could be, I legitimately feel this Fantastic Four could lead the universe of heroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I really feel like they could lead. I feel like if this Fantastic Four were in the MCU, I feel like all the other heroes in the MCU would look up to them. It kind of felt the way like it does in the comics. And so I think that had something to do with its success as well, is that you could kind of feel that a little bit from the marketing and all that kind of stuff they had leading up to it. And the other thing is maybe the promise of a first even remotely comic accurate Galactus. They took some liberties with Galactus, good ones, but he's not 100% comic accurate. And yeah, man. It was just so well done. And that opening night. Okay, so let's go back to the numbers for a second here. So now that we know that it's the biggest opening night of the year, biggest opening night of any Hollywood film since Deadpool and Wolverine over a year ago, right? No other movie has had a bigger opening preview night since Deadpool and Wolverine than Fantastic Four. Okay, how big will the opening weekend numbers be? Will they stay on pace with the Superman numbers just a little bit ahead of it and it'll open to like 130, 135? Do you think it's going to suffer from a weak weekend and maybe come in under Superman? Do you think it'll be a lot more? I'm going to ask all you guys in the live chat. Throw in your number. Amin is saying right now 134. How big do you think when we get the final numbers on Monday morning or late Saturday afternoon, we get the final numbers? How big do you think it's going to be? Colin Z is also thinking it's going to beat Superman, 130. Mark W is saying 136. Sci-Fi Extremist is going even higher, saying 145. Woo! Mr. I is going way higher, saying 169. We got a couple people saying 152. So some of you are thinking it's going to keep pace with just ahead of Superman with that 130 range. Some of you are saying the 150, 160 range. It's going to be interesting to see. Got a couple people saying into the 140s. Patrick is saying 147. Vegas Disney RTV is saying 140. What will it do? Here's my prediction. I'm going to stick with 135, which is higher than I initially thought it was going to be. But I think it's going to pace ahead of Superman. It's going to be 135, which, again, at 135, that will make it, I believe, the third biggest opening weekend of the year. I don't think it's going to be bigger than Lilo and Stitch. Like, I don't think it's going to break 146. It's not impossible, though. Not impossible. So I believe it's definitely not going to catch Minecraft's opening weekend number of 162.7. I don't quite think it'll catch Lilo and Stitch at 146. So I think ultimately we're looking at about a $135 million opening weekend range, which again would make it, I think the second biggest opening weekend since 2022 for Marvel, and the third biggest opening weekend of the year. Now, if it can climb over that 146, it suddenly becomes the second biggest opening weekend of the year. Anyway, guys, question is, what do you think about the performance of Fantastic Fours on its opening night? It's by a significant margin the biggest of the year, surpassing Superman. What do you think that means for its overall opening weekend box office? And what do you attribute that success to? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your comments and questions that you guys have sent in to us. But before we get to that, we're going to take a quick moment and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at BetterHelp. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. You know, it feels like workplace stress is higher than ever these days, and I was just reading that about 61% of the global workforce is dealing with above normal levels of stress, and honestly, it's not surprising. When you're stuck in endless Zoom meetings, juggling deadlines, or just trying to keep your head above water, it adds up. Now sure, a quick vacation sounds nice, but let's be real, it's not a long-term fix. What's helped me is building small wellness habits. For me, it's things like getting outside in the sun for a few minutes, or squeezing in a brisk walk during breaks. But for a lot of people, sometimes that's just not enough, and that's where therapy can really help. BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform with over 30,000 therapists who've already helped over 5 million people worldwide. Their app is super convenient. You can meet with a therapist with just a click, and if it's not the right fit, you can switch therapists anytime. And just listen to the user reviews. The BetterHelp app has a 4.9 out of 5 from over 1.7 million reviews. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at BetterHelp for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, let's spend the rest of our time now taking your topics and questions that you guys have sent in to us on our tip link. We're going to get things started off here with Voodoo. And Voodoo writes, "Hey, John, I saw Fantastic Four on Tuesday. I think you will like it a lot." Obviously, I did. But not love it. Oh, I did love it. I absolutely loved it. To me, it was more like a Batman versus Superman tone. Well, I didn't get that at all. And lack of action. I also didn't get a sense of lack of action. I like it. For me, the movie feels more like the trailers. Do you think regular viewers would feel satisfied? Yeah, listen, the beautiful thing, Voodoo, I talk about this all the time. The beautiful thing about movies is that it's art, and as art, it's subjective. All movies hit us all in different ways. There is no objectively true statement saying this movie is good and this movie is bad. There's no unit of measurement to measure that. Therefore, it's up to opinion. And it hit you in such a way that you liked it, but you found a number of shortcomings. But it hit me differently. And my experience is no more valid than yours, but it did hit me differently. I thought the action was great. I thought any more action might have been overdoing it a bit, to be honest with you. Not that that would have been a bad thing necessarily, but I thought the action was thrilling. I thought there was enough of it. I thought there was enough story. And yeah, man, for me, I walked out extremely satisfied. And again, the critic ratings are at like 88%. The audience ratings right now are like 92%. So yes, I do think the audiences are walking out very satisfied. And I'm glad you liked it. And again, just because I liked it a little bit more than you doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong. It just means you had a bit of a different experience than me. All right, thanks for sharing, Voodoo. Next up, Raymond Verrata writes, "Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan and Chuck Mangione." He was the jazz musician, right? "Quest for Peace. It's the anniversary of Superman 4. which was released today, January 24th, which was yesterday, in 1987. Really? It's the anniversary of, well, not a significant anniversary, though. Yeah, Superman 4, Quest for Peace. I'll say this here. I got asked yesterday by a few people sending me in questions and comments why we didn't talk about, and I'll just talk about here in the Q&A part, why we didn't talk about the passing of Hulk Hogan on yesterday's show. And we did not talk about the passing of Hulk Hogan because Mama Campea raised me in such a way to say, if you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say anything. And I don't like to speak ill of somebody who just passed away. And had we done a segment on it, I wasn't going to lie, and I would have just ended up saying ill things about Hulk Hogan. So I decided not to. The other reason on top of that is because, I mean, the John Campea Show is a movie show. And we generally don't talk about personalities that are outside of it. Yeah, we did do a quick mention of Ozzy Osbourne, but that was a rare exception. That was a rare exception. And you can say, but John, Hulk Hogan was in Rocky 3. Guys, Hulk Hogan had a cameo in one real movie, and he had a couple of novelty little movies. He wasn't a movie personality. He was absolutely a larger-than-life wrestling personality, like larger than life, arguably the biggest superstar ever in the history of wrestling. But we're a movie show, and so those things combined is why we decided not to make it a topic. So that was us. All right. Thanks for that, Raymond. Next up, Ryan writes, hey, John, what are your thoughts on the new awesome Predator Badlands trailer that came out a few days ago? How come you haven't discussed it? We kind of did the other day, but are you not interested in it? Well, we've talked a lot about Predator Badlands. You know I'm interested in it. It looks so good. I'm seeing Fantastic Four tonight to enjoy. So here was the thing. We did explain this the other day, that the day the Predator Badlands trailer came out, you guys who are regular viewers of the show know that we generally try to keep it to around 5 topics. Sometimes we do 6. Every once in a while, in an extreme, we'll do 7. The day the Predator Badlands trailer came out, we literally had an 8-topic day. And a trailer to an upcoming movie wasn't going to bump out any of the other ones that we already had on the list. And so there was literally just too much to talk about. We just had too many other topics to cover. And I generally don't do trailer reviews when it's been more than 24 hours since the trailer came out. Like, unless a trailer comes out on a Friday night and then we don't have another show till Monday, then we'll do it. So anyway, yeah, there was no time. There was no space for us to talk about the Predator Badlands trailer. That said, I loved it. I thought it looks great. I think this movie is going to be a lot of fun. And after being somebody who didn't believe in the Predator or Aliens futures anymore, things like Prey, things like Romulus, these things have gotten me back on board with Predators and Aliens. And yeah, this Predator Badlands thing, this looks really good. And the newest trailer was great. The newest trailer looked great. All right. Next up. We got Curious Chris, who writes, a bunch of buddies and I are going to go see both Superman and Fantastic Four this Sunday. Both great movies, my friend. Both great movies. One right after the other. Our own personal version of Barbenheimer. The Supertastic Foreman. That's funny, actually. I'm going to pass out from too much beer, popcorn, and pizza. Yeah, man. When's the last time we had 2 truly great comic book movies in theater at the same time, and relatively new ones? I'm sure it hasn't been too long ago, but I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head the last time we had 2 truly great, wonderful viewing experience comic book movies at the same time. And having Superman in theaters right now and Fantastic Four in theaters right now. Look, I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves. Okay. This is clearly premature to say. I'm acknowledging that right now, okay? Okay. But doesn't it feel like there's a chance, guys, that we could be on the precipice of a new, truly golden age of comic book movies, with a healthy, quality, DC universe and a return to healthy quality Marvel Cinematic Universe both going at the same time, which we have never had, doesn't it kind of feel like maybe there's a chance that we could just be on the starting line of a truly special, epic comic book movie era here, coming off of a couple of years that have been hit or miss? Again, I know it's premature to say that. That's why I'm saying maybe it just feels like we have the chance of having that. Anyway, we'll find out. Hope you have a great time, Curious Chris. All right. Next up, we've got another Curious Chris, who writes, was rewatching some episodes of the OG Daredevil show and Born Again. And I got to say, while the new show isn't quite as good as the OG, that courtroom episode with Hector Ayala, is that how you pronounce his name? Was every bit as good as the OG. Fantastic episode. My favorite of the season. Listen, I'll tell you what. I think I have a higher opinion of this Daredevil season than other people. Now, I agree with you. I don't think Daredevil Born Again quite reached the heights of the original series, but I think it came close. And I think there are moments in this season of Daredevil that we just had. There were moments that were every bit as good as the original series. I mean, overall, I think the original series was better, but I think Daredevil Born Again was really great. Unfortunately, it didn't have the ratings that they were hoping for. It didn't have the view numbers. Like Agatha All Along had a considerably bigger audience than Daredevil did. So we'll see what happens in season 2 of Born Again, but I really liked it, man. I had a great time with it. All right, next up. We've got Mr. Rogers writes, I think one of the most tragic parts of witnessing this new golden age era of quality comic book films such as Superman, I was just talking about this, Fantastic Four First Steps, Deadpool and Wolverine, Thunderbolts, is that Schnepp isn't still here to enjoy with us. He would have loved these. Listen, I'll tell you what, Schnepp would have lost his mind for this Superman movie. He would have loved it. That doesn't mean you need to like it, but I mean, Schnepp would have loved this Superman movie, man. And he would have been bananas for this Fantastic Four movie. I think he would have really liked Thunderbolts. I don't know, like Superman and Fantastic Four are much more on his avenue than Thunderbolts. I still think he would have liked Thunderbolts. I mean, I don't know, maybe he would have liked it more than me. Maybe he wouldn't have liked it. I loved Thunderbolts. And I think he would have liked Deadpool and Wolverine, but I know he would have loved Superman and Fantastic Four. These are two movies that were, you watch Superman and Fantastic Four and you can't help but wonder, did they say, what would Schnepp really like in this movie? And maybe put those in there. Again, that doesn't mean I think they're better than Deadpool and Wolverine. I just think he would have liked those ones even more than Deadpool and Wolverine. And I think he would have liked Deadpool and Wolverine. All right, next up. The man with no shame writes, hey, John, did you know that Alan Alda has a podcast? Yes, I've had a few people write that in on the show and tell me that, where he interviews Noah Wyle of The Pit. It's such a great gem of a conversation to hear how much these two legends admire each other's work. Check out Alda's podcast, Clear and Vivid, if you haven't already. I wouldn't call Noah Wyle a legend. And don't misinterpret me. I like Noah Wyle. I've always liked Noah Wyle. And I think he's amazing on The Pit, and I think he's going to win an Emmy for it. Well deserved. But I wouldn't call, I mean, Alan Alda is a legend. I wouldn't call Noah Wyle a legend yet. He can get there, but I'm certainly a big fan. And yes, many people have told me about this podcast now, and I definitely got to start listening to it. Apparently, somebody was just telling me who his newest guest was. Anyway, yeah, I got to get on that. I really want to hear that podcast. All right. Thanks for that, man. Next up. Patrick Stewart writes and sends in a $25 tip. Thank you, Patrick, for supporting us on that level, man. Appreciate that, dude. That's very generous of you. Writes, my dad and I out for our first viewing of Fantastic Four at our local Regal. We both had a super time. We decided to go back in and watch a second time. Were there seats available? To me, this felt like an event movie. I am happy about this iteration of Fantastic Four. I kid you not. Ann and I thought about going in and watching it again last night, but we couldn't find decent seats available at all. So we're going to go back and watch it this afternoon at 2 p.m. because there weren't any seats for the evening shows. So yeah, they're selling tickets at a pretty good rate. Anyway, I'm glad you guys enjoyed. I'm glad you guys did the whole U-turn. I love movie U-turns. You come out of the theater, turn around and go right back in. I love being able to do movie U-turns. That's great. All right. Thanks for sharing, Patrick. And thank you again for supporting us on that level, man. That's really generous of you, dude. All right. Ashley Prowless writes, I've noticed that open mics and open spoiler shows haven't been showing up on Apple Podcasts or Spotify lately. Apologize if this has been asked already, but will those be returning to the feeds? I'll talk to Ray about that. That could be Ray just forgetting, and it could be me forgetting to remind him when I put up a new episode. Because when I do open spoilers, or if I do open mics, those are usually me in the room by myself. And I've got to remember to notify Ray, because Ray's the one who puts all the stuff up on the podcast feeds as well. I got to remember to notify Ray that a new open mic went up, or a new spoiler discussion went up, or something like that. So it might be a mixture of things, of maybe Ray forgot one or two, and maybe I forgot to let him know about it as well. So I'll keep a closer eye on that and make sure we get those up on the podcast feed. Thanks for letting me know, Ashley. Appreciate that. All right. Next up. Where are we at? We are at Mark H. Choi writes, Fantastic Four is my favorite movie of the year. Topping Sinners, way more fun and enjoyable, not necessarily better than Infinity War or Endgame. Laughs, smiles, tears, and real threat that had me worried. Giacchino deserves an Oscar. Just got 1 a.m. IMAX at Universal night. Yeah, listen, you guys know I don't make big, I try not to make big declarations about a movie until I've been able to have it marinate with me for a while, right? Like, I can come out and say, I love Superman, it's so great. But how do I rank it compared to my beloved Henry Cavill's Man of Steel? Well, I need to sit with Superman for a while first to determine where I would put it. How would I rank Superman or Fantastic Four an overall best movie of the year race? I need to marinate with those for a while. Right now, I would still say that I still think Sinners is the best film of the year. I still think Sinners is the best film of the year. But ask me that again in a month or two. Maybe I'll think Superman is. Maybe I'll think Fantastic Four is. I mean, I don't know, but I truly enjoy them. And listen, while I'm not necessarily advocating for Michael Giacchino to win the Oscar, he did it. The score for Fantastic Four is so good, man. I knew that from the day they played it for us at the Hollywood Bowl, like over a year ago. It's so good. Like, bum, 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 bum. Like, it's just, you feel your blood starting to rush when you hear it. It's great. It's so great. All right. Thanks for that, Mark. Next up, we've got Robert, a Robot Man writes, my siblings and I just watched Fantastic Four yesterday, and we loved it. It was like watching a Star Trek episode. That's an interesting comparison. I don't know that I'd say that, but that's an interesting way of looking at it. The movie is different than any others at times. They feel like superheroes, others a normal family. They were also legit astronauts. Oh, listen. It is a very unique Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. That's for sure. Not quite as unique as, say, Eternals was, but like a very unique movie. And you're right. I said at the beginning of this show, right, when we were talking about my review of Fantastic Four, and I said this in my out of theater reaction. One of the things that makes this movie really special is that if you take away the superhero-ness of it, and you're just left with these four characters talking together, their relationship, hanging out over dinner, walking down the street, I could have watched an entire 2-hour movie of just that. And I would have enjoyed it. I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much, but I still would have enjoyed it if it was just that. When you have a comic book movie that can both succeed with all the fantastical comic book elements, but it still would have succeeded with your base building blocks as good if you even took out the superhero elements, then you've got something special. And that's one of the things that I really, really liked about this movie. All right. Thanks for that, Mark. Or I should say Robot Man. All right. Next up, Baldur's Grape writes, I really enjoyed Fantastic Four. Great characters and world building. My one gripe is Johnny's flame on form looked pretty bad in the talking scenes. The orange skin and glowing eyes look like a Snapchat filter. My wife said the same thing after we got in the car. You know, I'm okay with it. Like, I didn't want Johnny to be full CGI. And I would have been okay if they did. But I like still seeing Johnny when he's flame on, as opposed to like Chris Evans's, the way they handled Chris Evans's Johnny Storm or Michael B. Jordan's Johnny Storm. I still like that you definitively still see Johnny. Could they have designed that effect, that look that he has as the flame on Human Torch a little better? I won't disagree with you to say that they could have maybe done it a little bit better. I still think it worked. For me, I still think it worked. But I can see where you're coming from on that. I can. But I especially just liked, in principle, saying we still see Johnny. And I did like that. Although maybe they could have designed a bit of a better look for him when he's in that form. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for that, Baldur's Grape. Appreciate it, man. Next up, Danito writes, it was Bob Chapek all along. Listen, I do not think it is a coincidence. We've been hearing Kevin Feige. Remember, we talked about that Kevin Feige interview? Kevin Feige is starting himself more and more becoming public about how crappy it was trying to run Marvel under Bob Chapek. When Bob Chapek stripped him of a lot of his authority and gave it to his banker buddy and added an extra layer of middle management to govern and oversee and give approvals to Kevin Feige. We already heard one Marvel executive say that under Bob Chapek, the mandate given to Marvel was, and this is a quote, the mandate given to Marvel was produce as much as you can, as fast as you can. And Kevin Feige didn't have any choice. He had no say in the matter. And even recently now, Kevin Feige himself is becoming more and more public about how awful it was working under those conditions. And he was talking about like writing scripts. He goes, yeah, before we couldn't go back to the drawing board on a script because we had a mandate. We had to just rush it through and put it out. And we could never make the movies or the stuff we were trying to make. We just couldn't make them as good as we knew we could. We just couldn't make them like that because the mandate for how much we had to crank out was simply too high. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we're going to start to see, and I could be wrong, could be way wrong, but I believe we're going to start to see that quality ramping back up and getting better and better and better the further and further away we get from the Bob Chapek era. Anyway, that's just kind of my take on it. I could be wrong about that. Could be wrong, but we'll see. All right, next up. We've got Dakota Valdez writes, hey, John, I saw Fantastic Four tonight, and in the middle of the trailers, AMC played a commercial, for Indeed and Applebee's, and then continued with trailers. Completely took me out of the experience. Will Adam Aaron ever be stopped? It's too much. It is too much. But listen, I'm not going to go on my big how terrible of a CEO I think Adam Aaron is. Instead, I'm going to focus on the positive. AMC has just recently started adding to when you buy your ticket and all that. I'm going to see if I can find it here and just hold it up. They've started added both on the website and on their app and all this kind of stuff. And I think they could be a little bit more clear about it, but they're pretty clear about it. A thing that says, hey, showtime is not when the movie starts. There's going to be 20 to 25 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see it here. Let me see if I can hold this up and see if the camera will focus on it. Okay, right here. Movie start time, it says right there. See that? It says, and this is on my movie ticket for Fantastic Four today. It says, the listed show times is when the trailers and additional content begins. The movie will start 25 to 30 minutes after the listed show time. So, I have to give them credit for this. It's not ideal, but it's a step in the right direction. And now Ann and I know we have a 2:15 screening of Fantastic Four today. We know we don't actually have to be in the theater until 2:40. That's the earliest we have to be in the theater. So for us, it says 2:15, but we know it's going to be at least 25 minutes after that, between 25 and 30 minutes. We know we don't have to show up exactly until 2:40. So I would suggest taking advantage of that. Take advantage of that. And again, I like that they're doing that. I like they're actually putting a specific time. And I'll also give AMC credit that out of the 6 or 7 times I've gone to an AMC theater to watch a movie since they've introduced that 25 to 30 minutes after scheduled showtime, every single time I've gone to a movie so far, it has started exactly in between 25 minutes and 30 minutes after the advertised showtime. And as long as they do that, again, it's not ideal, but it's better than nothing, and it's a good start. All right. Next up, anonymous viewer writes, "Hey, John, just curious on your thoughts of why Collider fell apart so badly after you built it into something amazing and left." I think there are a couple of reasons that everything over there fell apart pretty badly. Let me start about one of the things that is not one of the reasons it fell apart was the talent level that was there. That ain't one of the reasons it fell apart, because they had a good roster of talent there, man. Talented people. Like obviously the Zen master himself. They had Dennis Zen there. You had guys like Christian Harloff and Mark Ellis. You had Perry Nemiroff there. You had a Josh McCouga and a why am I freezing? Oh my God, he was our lead writer. Why oh my God, I'm freezing on. I was just thinking about him the other day, and now I'm freezing on the name. Anyway, long the short of it is, Ken Knapsack. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, but you had a Ken Knapsack there, for heaven's sakes. The problem that was there after I left was definitely not the talent. They had great talent, and there were others there as well. Obviously had great talent. There are, I think, I'll highlight 3 reasons why I think things there fell apart so quickly after I left. 4. I'll say 4. Number 1 was just change. Change will have a negative impact at first, no matter what, right? And the reality was, while we had a lot of people at AMC, I was, for better or for worse, I was the lead face of AMC Movie News. Later on, Collider Movie Talk. I was the face of it. And whenever you go through a big change like that, there's going to be a negative impact initially. Now, hopefully what happens is after you go through the initial negative impact, you then build back better and stronger than ever. That's the goal. So I would say one of the reasons that it had a quick initial decline was simply because there was a change, right? Just because there was a significant change. The guy who built the place and the guy who's been the lead face of it is now gone. So that's going to have a negative impact no matter what, right? And that's normal. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. That's normal. So I think that's number 1. The second thing, though, this is a more significant one. The second reason I think things fell apart there so badly is because they mishandled their talent. They mishandled their talent. As the guy running Collider Movie Talk and the guy running what was AMC Movie Talk and all that kind of stuff, a couple of my main responsibilities sometimes made me unpopular, and that's fine. I can handle that. But a couple of the main responsibilities are getting the best talent. Yeah. But once you have good talent, understanding where to put them and how to utilize them to give them their best chances of success and to have the best chances of success for the channel as a whole, right? And I really think they dropped the ball on that when I left. Suddenly, Movie Talk had a different lineup of people on it every day. They did not have a fundamental understanding of people tune into YouTube shows, not for the YouTube show, but rather for the personalities there. And I think it became a really difficult thing for audiences of Movie Talk at the time, that they never knew who was going to be on the show, right? And it was like a constant, every day was a different lineup. Every single day was a different lineup. There was no consistency. And I think that was a problem. One of the other big things that I think was a problem in their failure and not putting the best people in the best positions was, I told them when I left, the main host of Movie Talk should be Perry Nemiroff. And the person who should always be there with her in second chair was Mark Ellis. Now, why did I think it was a mistake for them to make Mark Ellis the main host of Movie Talk? Is it because I didn't believe in Mark Ellis? No, nothing could be further from the truth. It's just that I understood that what made Mark Ellis one of the best in the world at what he did would be stifled if he had to be in the main chair. You take Ellis and put him in the main chair, suddenly there's certain things you need to do and how you need to run things if you're in the main chair. If you're the main host, right, and the facilitator of the conversation, I thought that, and I told them this, I thought that was going to inhibit and tie Mark Ellis's hands from being able to really do all the things that makes him the best at what he does. It's like in a football illustration, right? I think Mark Ellis is the best wide receiver in the league, the absolute best wide receiver in the league. He's not going to be the best if you suddenly take him and make him a defensive end. That's he shines best in the role of wide receiver. And I thought the best moderator you have is Perry Nemiroff. Put her there and then let Mark Ellis cook. Let Mark Ellis be Mark Ellis. Let Ellis kind of really shine in that second chair because he will elevate the whole show. If you put him in the main chair, I said, I feel like you're going to be tying his hands. And I thought that hurt the show. But I mean, that was just an illustration. That wasn't the only example. There were a number of people that they had that I thought that they were misusing. And the third reason is one of my main jobs, again, having the main job means sometimes you got to make decisions that make you unpopular. And I was always comfortable with that. I never minded that. But one of my main jobs was to keep the ship going keep the ship focused and keep them heading in the right direction. And I felt like as soon as I left, they lost all focus and they lost their direction. They started getting into this bullshit celebrity content and they really started to lean into this bullshit, deep fake nonsense. Don't get me wrong. Like when they put out their first few deep fake things, they were awesome. Like great. I loved them. They were great. But they never should have made that the focus of the channel. They should have used it as great content, but they never should have made it And so they totally lost their way. And there was nobody there who was willing to take the wheel and keep it going in the right direction. And yeah, and it's really too bad because when you look at the talent of people that they had, from Ken, like in our writer's room, Ken and Josh were just amazing. And Mark Riley, by the way, like our writer's room was Ken, Josh McCouga, and Mark Riley. And those guys, man, if I had $100 million and I could put together a new little network and I had to start with a writer's room, those are the first three guys I'm going to. I'm going to those three guys because when those guys were writing together and I got to sit in on their writer's room sometimes. Sorry, I'm going off really long on this. I'm sorry. But every once in a while, me and Harloff would go and sit in on the writer's room. And just the way Ken, Josh, and Mark would be able to feed off each other's energy and just some of the creative shit some stuff we could never put on video. But I'm telling you, when I got to sit down and watch those guys cook, they were incredible. Like they were great. And if I had $100 million and I could put together a network and money was no object and I could just hire whoever, I would start with those three. They had the talent, man. They had so much talent there. It is really such a shame that it doesn't exist anymore. It's really too bad. Anyway, sorry guys. I started going down nostalgia lane there. Let us keep going here, shall we? Next up, Man of Steel writes, my first time sending a message. Thank you so much. Love the show, and I watch/listen to it when working out. Superman trailers kind of gave away 90% of the action scenes for me, so I stopped watching any new footage for F4 watching this Sunday. I get that, but I would suggest this. While the trailers certainly gave you glimpses of most of the action sequences, they in no way, shape, or form gave away most of the action. Right? Like, you get a glimpse in the trailer of the Ultraman Superman fight when they're in the baseball stadium, right? Like, okay, so that's one of the scenes. But they did not give you most of that scene. Right? You see the bit of the action sequence when Superman is fighting off the Raptors. But they didn't give you the majority of that scene. So I would say that while, yes, they did give you glimpses of most of the action sequences, they certainly didn't give you 90% of the action. They gave you like 5% of the action. So I would say that about that. But I get it. You're not alone, man. There's a lot of cinephiles who like already know when they're sold on a movie and they don't want to see anymore. And I get that. I respect that. I think that's does not make you unusual. I think that's a very normal thing, Man of Steel. So I respect that. All right, next up, we got Ali Hussein, who sends in a $50 tip to support us. Ali, thank you so much, man. Appreciate that very much. And Ali writes in, and again, thank you for supporting us on that level, man. That's incredible. Writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much. You should give K-pop Demon Hunters another chance. Nope, I've already gave it a chance. It's not for me. End it. Just stop it. Anyway, you tapped out when you introduced the Demon Boy Band. I promise the movie gets really dark and great. No, it doesn't. You get past Demon Boy Band stuff. No, I didn't. By the way, that's not when I stopped. I didn't stop when they first introduced the Demon Boy Band. That's when I knew this wasn't for me. And then they move on to the scenes where like they're coming out of the so-called doctor's office and they see the boy band. I'm like, no, this. So I saw more of it. Before I tapped out, but it was just as soon as they introduced the Demon Boy Band, I mentally checked out, but I hung in with it. It doesn't get any better. Now, look, that's not, let me rephrase that. It does not get any better for me. Okay. Listen, movies are art and art hits us all in different ways. And what you are going to have to accept is just like I can love Star Wars, but guess what? Some other people don't like Star Wars. That's okay. I accept that. You're just going to have to accept, no, you don't understand. K-pop Demon Hunter is actually really great. And you'll understand that if you just watch it more. No, I won't. Because to me, it's not that good. That doesn't mean I don't think it shouldn't be good for you. Or my wife loves it and loves K-pop Demon Hunters. Loves it. But it hits me differently, man. It did not work for me. To me, it hits me as just kind of thin, shallow and silly. But it certainly didn't strike my wife that way. And it certainly doesn't strike you that way. But yeah, man, it didn't work for me. And that's okay. There's a lot of movies I like that probably don't work for you and probably other movies that you like that don't work for me. And that's okay. That's the best part of being movie fans is that we all have different experiences with them. But no, I'm not going to waste my time and go back and watch K-pop Demon Hunters again when I already know it doesn't work for me. But anyway, that's just that. But thank you for writing in regardless, Ali. I appreciate you, man. All right. Next up, Ronaldo Rodriguez writes, hey, John and crew, saw Fantastic Four and truly enjoyed it. It brought a tone that we hadn't seen in a while. That scene with Johnny and Surfer was top tier. I loved it. I loved the way, because they didn't go too far. Again, spoiler discussion on Sunday. I'll just say they didn't go too far with it. Right? I thought the Johnny and the Surfer stuff was great. And one of the things, again, that made it so great is they knew what to do with it, but they knew not to push it too far. and try to make it something that it wasn't. You know what I mean? For those of you who saw it, you know what I mean. And for those of you who haven't seen it yet, you will see what I mean. But I thought they handled that great, man. I really, really did. All right. Thanks for that, Ronaldo. Next up, we got Tyler Yates, who writes, I really enjoyed Fantastic Four. My only issue is that it had to end. I wanted more with the family. The space scenes reminded me a lot of Interstellar. It was amazing. It did kind of remind me a bit of Interstellar, didn't it? It was amazing. Loved Ben the Thing. I like how they showed Reed's intellect a lot. Felt Pedro did a great job. Listen, I was talking about that a little bit earlier. Like, one of the absolute best things in it is that it truly shows this iteration of Reed, and there have been other iterations, and not that one is better than the other. But thing that I loved about this iteration of Reed is that it really leans into his intellect, into his genius. But the weight and the burden that he feels having that intellect, the weight and the burden of being so smart that you are very aware of how much you're ignorant of, and that scares you, that you can't fix everybody's problems, or the fear of not being able to fix any problem that comes along terrifies you. Like, I love the way they portrayed him, and Pedro Pascal portraying that version was beyond amazing. Beyond amazing. It was so good. All right. Thanks for that, Tyler. Next up, James writes, I saw Fantastic Four last night and I thought it was fantastic. Such a great family film. Just think if Feige had not released Brave New World, we would have had 4 epic comic book movies back to back at the cinema. Deadpool and Wolverine, Thunderbolts, Superman, and Fantastic Four, a super fantastic summer. Listen, I struggle with this a little bit because you guys know I was disappointed with Captain America Brave New World. I do not think they did Anthony Mackie justice. I don't think they did the character of Sam Wilson justice. I thought they made a couple of bad decisions. Anyway, regardless of any of that, I don't think it was a very good movie. But I don't think Captain America Brave New World was garbage either, right? Like, I don't think it was Kraven the Hunter or Morbius. I don't even think it's the worst movie Marvel's ever done. Like, I think it's better than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I think it's better than Iron Man 2. I think it's better than Thor: The Dark World. I don't think it's the worst thing they've ever done. But I can't help but wonder if maybe they should have just not put it out. Now, I get it. Kevin Feige wanted to really ground and establish Sam as the new Captain America before you get into Avengers Doomsday. And I get that. But I also can't help but wonder if putting out Captain America Brave New World, instead of really cementing Sam as the new Captain America, it hurt getting the audience to see him as Captain America. Because the movie just wasn't high quality. It was disappointing. It was subpar. Not garbage, not a total train wreck, but subpar. And I can't help but wonder if it might not have been a wiser decision to just say, you know what? I think it's just best if we not release this. Because you got to sometimes make hard decisions that might hurt short term, but have longer term better effects. And I can't help but wonder if the perception and reputation of the MCU right now amongst the fans might not even be better than if they just had not released Captain America Brave New World. Even though I don't think it's the worst film, I don't think it's total garbage or anything. It had some redeeming qualities. I just wonder if it wouldn't have been beneficial to the MCU as a whole if they just didn't put it out. Anyway, I don't know. I might be wrong about that. I could be totally wrong about that. Maybe I'll even think differently in a week or two, but it's a good question, James. All right, next up. We got Mark H. Choi, who writes, I got out of the 1 a.m. IMAX at Universal. John and Jonathan. They go full frame IMAX for 2 Galactus scenes. Literally awesome. Mentioning the score again, it isn't just background and unremarkable as if they were woven into the scenes like John Williams. It's as if they were woven into the scenes like John Williams. Oh yeah, the soundtrack was wonderful. Again, I'm not going to go so far as to say, give them the Oscar right now. I'm not going to go that far, but The score to Fantastic Four is wonderful. The music elevates the emotions we're supposed to feel in each scene. They do a great job, and it's one of the things that makes the movie really stand out. It really is. All right. Next up, Anonymous writes, Marvel really needs to stop changing the script on the fly when shooting. A locked script will lead to better CGI and a more coherent product. That's not necessarily true. Anyway, just because it worked for Iron Man, it doesn't mean they should keep doing something very amateur. Okay. I see what you're saying. I do. But let me propose a couple of things here. Number one, it's not like they change the whole major story of their movies as they go. They change, sometimes they play with the script and are flexible with the script as they're shooting to throw in moments or to throw in lines of dialogue or to introduce a little thing. It's not like, let's take, what's a good example? Ant-Man and the Wasp, or not even Ant-Man and the Wasp. Just go to the first Ant-Man movie, right? Just for the heck of it. It's not like, they started off where Ant-Man is going to end up where they have to go and steal this tech away from Yellow Jacket and defeat Yellow Jacket at the end. It's not as if they started with that and then halfway through the movie said, you know what? Let's now say instead that Ant-Man meets, I don't know, who's a good Marvel character I can just pull out of thin air? Morbius, and he becomes friends with Morbius, and then he battles Morbius at the end. Like, that would have been a total change of direction for the whole thing. Marvel doesn't do that. It's about them coming up with great ideas. Hey, we're doing this. What if we did this? It would really put a bigger exclamation point on that. Let's change the dialogue here because it'll be sharper or funnier or whatever, right? It's not like they're making wholesale changes to the movie as a whole. But the second thing I would recommend, Anonymous, is that they didn't just do that with Iron Man. Every movie that's your favorite MCU movie, they did that in that movie as well. They do it in all their movies. So if you love Infinity War, well, a part of the result of Infinity War was them being flexible with elements of the script as they were going and making additions to it, or as Kevin Feige calls it, plussing it. Like, Infinity War is as good as it is because they play around with their script a little bit as they're going. Again, they're not making wholesale changes to completely alter the direction of the movie, but they're just making little additions as they go because they have the budget that they can do that. Most films, 95% of films, don't have that. They don't have that ability to do that. So, yeah, you can say it's a bad thing, but if there's any Marvel movie you love, well, you love it because they did that. So, yeah, I think Marvel's formula, Marvel's philosophy when it comes to this has worked out very, very well for them. And I think the movies that are shortchanged, like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, like Captain America: Brave New World, they didn't get sunk by little changes they made throughout the film. They got sunk because they just had bad movies to start with. Anyway, that's just kind of my take on it at any rate. All right. Next up, Sci-Fi Extremist writes, Fantastic Four was a ton of fun, seen so many nitpicks, and for Superman, and I found myself less and less inclined to pick these apart. They're fun escapism. Why would I want to lessen that feeling with negativity? Oh, look, 2 cakes has become my identity lately. Well, I mean, look, I would say this, Sci-Fi Extremist. I don't think the answer is going, no, I can't see or hear any of the bad stuff. Nope, no. I'm not, I don't think that's the answer or the prescription for us as film fans. I think we as film fans, a healthy film fandom, I think can look at the negatives of a film and still love it. Like, just because I love a movie doesn't mean I should stick my head in the sand about anything that wasn't good about it. You know, if you guys have followed me for a long time, normally what I try to do when I'm talking about a movie I really liked, I try to start off with talking about the things I didn't like about it. And when I'm talking about a movie that I didn't like, I'd like to start off talking about the things that I thought were good about it. Like, I think it's okay to love a movie and still acknowledge, hey, here's where it could have been even better. And I don't think that takes away from anything. I don't think that takes away from anything at all. I loved Fantastic Four. Would I like to have seen more of Reed's powers being used? Yes. Do I think they could have done some better visual effects shots? Yes. Do I think you can look at that and it's not just nitpicking. It's just being a film fan and saying, hey, this was great. Look, when I watch my beloved Toronto Maple Leafs play and they win a game, I can be thrilled and excited, but I can still sit down and say, now, they need to tighten up on their forecheck. Like the dump and chase thing is great, but they're not getting to the puck fast enough. They also need to control play behind their own blue line a little bit better. Like, that doesn't mean I'm not celebrating the win. And it doesn't make me any less of a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. It's just being realistic and saying, here's some areas that could have been better. That's all. I love Fantastic Four, but I have no problems discussing what I thought they did great, but also the things they could have done better. And I don't think bringing up the things that could have been better is negativity. It's just having an honest appraisal. And that shouldn't take away your enjoyment from it if you loved it. Hey, that's just what I recommend. That's just how I approach it. Doesn't necessarily mean that's the way you need to approach it. That's just the way I like to approach it. All right. Next up and last one comes to us from Anonymous, who writes, no spoilers, no context, but holy shit, the car seat scene had me in stitches. Ann and I, we go out for a walk every night and we take our dog Dune with us. And about a good 10 minutes of our walk last night was specifically talking about the car seat scene. That's all I'll say. The car seat scene was, I laughed my ass off. And the whole theater I was in was laughing our asses off too at the car seat scene. All right, guys. You know what? I'm going to take a few minutes here and take some questions from you guys who are in the live chat. Again, you guys know the routine. Check out, see what I just put in the live chat. If you have a question or a topic, I'll just spend a couple of minutes here. Put in all capital letters, question, colon, and it's only our channel members who are here right now. Put question, colon, and then the question. That way I know you're asking me a question and you're not just talking amongst yourselves. Now, I know there's like a 15-second delay, so I'll wait a second. All right, Amin says, did you get the Galactus popcorn bucket? I did, and it's massive. Here's the thing. I was there in the theater. We came out of the theater, and a guy had one, and I love it. I can't spend if I'm going to spend $80, I'm going to spend another $150 and just get an actual hot toy. Like, I love it, but I just could not, I couldn't justify spending $80 on it. I couldn't justify spending $80 on it. All right. King Daddy Goat writes, John, do you plan on watching Happy Gilmore 2? It's pretty good in my opinion. Yeah, I do plan on watching it. Hold on a second here. I saw not such a great review of it a little bit earlier, but I didn't look it up on Rotten Tomatoes or anything. So yeah, right now it's got a 58%. It's got a 58%. I'll probably watch it. Who am I kidding? I will probably watch it because I do love Happy Gilmore, but right now it's only got a 58%. Let's see here. Mr. I wrote, was the new Avatar trailer the same as CinemaCon's? It was very similar, but the CinemaCon ones had a more stuff. I won't go into details or anything like that. The CinemaCon one had a little bit more stuff. All right. Let's see. Jeremy King writes, John, can we get a video about your new 100-inch television? I don't know if I have it here. Let me see if I have it. So Ann and I this morning, we had the crew come in this morning and put up our new TV. We bought a new TV the other day, and let me see. Where am I? Let me see if I can bring it up here perhaps. One moment. So this morning they came in to act, the professional guys who come in and do the mounting of the TV. They came in today. There's Ann standing beside it. And that is now hanging on my living room. I haven't even had a chance to go and use it yet because they were here as I was getting ready for the show. The TV mounters came in to hang it on the wall. And I am very excited about going out and watching some stuff on it. Maybe I'll see Happy Gilmore 2 on it or something like that. All right. Let's see. And no, it's a TV. I probably won't make a video about it. Let's see. Next up, Jude Lehman writes, for the Fantastic Four team, would you like to see the renditions of when Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, or She-Hulk was on the team as in guest spots? Nah. Now I'm good with Fantastic Four being Fantastic Four. I'm good. We just got them. Why don't we have them for 5 or 6 or 7 years before we start talking about switching them in or out? So honestly, nah, I'm fine with it. I am going to be interested to see how they use She-Hulk once we get into the Avengers movies, because the She-Hulk TV show overall was terrible, but the character's really good. And Tatiana Maslany is great playing her. So I am really looking forward to seeing them use She-Hulk, and hopefully under the control of the Russo brothers, they'll just do a better job. All right. Jake Clark is asking, No Way Home or First Steps? Are you asking which one I liked more? It's hard. Again, I like to marinate with a movie for a little while. Listen, if you saw my reviews and me talk, I really liked Spider-Man No Way Home. Ask me again in a couple of months, but right now I think I liked Fantastic Four a little bit more. I think it's a little bit of a better movie. But, again, ask me again in a month or two. I might have a different answer. And all right, guys, that's all the time we have, and that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, everybody, and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this show as you did it, and all of us involved in the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. By the way, side note, for any of you guys who sent in questions while we were doing the show and we didn't get around to answering it, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I am here alone today, so I can't get the live updates of all the questions. So I had to take all the questions that had been sent in before we started the show. If you have sent in a question while we were doing the show, don't worry, they're all still there. We'll get around to answering those on Monday's show. So just to let you guys know. All right, guys, I'm going to go watch a little bit of my brand new TV for a few minutes, and then Ann and I are going to get ready and go see Fantastic Four again. Again, guys, don't forget, this Sunday, 2 p.m. West Coast time. That'll be 5 p.m. East Coast time, New York time. We're going to be doing our Fantastic Four open spoiler discussion. I hope you guys will come along and join us for that ride. I'm looking forward to doing it. All right, guys. That'll do it for me. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.